everyone, and welcome to this Saturday's special coronavirus press briefing. I'm Donna Bush. Welcome to you, our CIG TV viewers, as well as those joining us on our social media platforms and via Radio Cayman. Before we go to our panelists, we'd like to start with a prayer from the Reverend Dr. Yvette Noble Bloomfield.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we come before your presence this day, knowing that it is in you that we live and move and have our being. We pray, Almighty God, that your divine hand would rest upon the Cayman Islands and indeed your whole world. May we continue to seek after you and to find you. We pray, Lord God, that our faith in you would increase and that your word would continue to speak into our lives. Continue to bless our leaders, O God, with wisdom and courage. Continue to strengthen our healthcare workers, our security forces, and all those who have come together to keep these islands safe. Lord God, may you truly pour out your spirit on these beloved islands, and may we serve you and worship you in all that we say and do, as we pray in your name. Amen.
And thank you to Reverend Yvette Noble Bloomfield there for that prayer. We now welcome our panelists, His Excellency the Governor, Premier the Honorable Alder McLaughlin, and Minister for Health, the Honorable Dwayne Seymour. We'd also like to thank our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. John Lee, for joining us today, as well as Commissioner of Police, Mr. Derek Byrne. Of course, our media is joining us via Zoom today. We'd like to welcome back Mr. Ralph Lewis from the Caymanian Times, who took a few days off. We first go to Dr. Lee.
Good afternoon. The results reported today relate to 3 different days over Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday of this week just gone. There are a total of 57 to report. There are 2 people who are positive who are contacts of previous cases, and 6 people who we are still investigating. They are currently isolated, and we are going into the in-depth contact tracing for those 6 people. That means that we move from 45 to 53 positive cases, 434 to 483 negatives. In Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, there is no change. There is 1 positive case, and there have been 24 negative swabs. We are still awaiting the results of 43 outstanding samples, which will be run in due course. There are now 2 patients that are admitted. One is a patient that you were previously informed about, and that patient is doing much better. The other one is a patient that was admitted for unrelated issues and is currently at Health City being treated for not for COVID-related symptoms. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Lee. Do we have any questions from members of the press? I think we may have one from the Caymanian Times, and then Kayla will go to you from the Compass. Ralph?
Good afternoon. Happy Easter, everyone, and happy Easter to all our viewers as well. Dr. Lee, can you tell me, have the calls for those people calling into the hotline increased or declined?
I don't know the answer, but hopefully, I think there is somebody I can see on the screen from the HSA who may be able to answer that question.
Okay. Hello?
Hi, good afternoon. This is Lizette Yearwood, CEO at the HSA. And the answer is no. We haven't seen a change in the number of calls into the flu hotline, and the number of patients that are coming into the flu clinic remains pretty much the same as well.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ralph. We'll move on now to Kayla from the Compass.
Hi, Dr. Lee. I wanted to clarify on the reporting of positive cases are they still being confirmed through CARFA, or are the positives now being validated locally?
All of the positive cases that we report, we're reporting directly from our lab here at the Health Services Authority. All of our positive cases we are sending for verification to CARFA, as well as 10% of our negative cases. You'll recall that last time I reported, I think a few days ago, perhaps last week, we had a batch back from CARFA, and they correlated 100% with the results that we've been providing.
And I wanted to ask, we're seeing in some other jurisdictions that when positive cases are confirmed, that authorities are coming and sanitizing areas, apartment complexes. Is that something that you would recommend that would be appropriate here?
We haven't instigated something like that. It's not being done in all countries. We haven't done so in Cayman. Certainly, we know that the virus does not live forever. It lives for a defined period of time and is susceptible to routine household cleaning agents, which is why we're giving the information in the frequently asked questions and the information about how to manage self-isolation, and there's information about cleaning there.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, we'll now move on to Wendy from Cayman News Service. Wendy?
Thanks, Donna. I'd just like to clarify some issues with Dr. Lee, the patients that are in the hospital. One of the patients is the long-term patient that's been in hospital and tested positive for COVID that we've discussed before. This is a brand new one at HCCI that's
Wendy,
just recently tested positive.
Yeah, so I apologize. I didn't report that case. The one that's a long-term case is in Health City for unrelated issues. This is a new case, yes, that's been again admitted for a non-COVID related problem. So you're correct. There are actually three in hospital. Yes.
Yeah, and one has got better. You said.
I am told that that patient is a lot better. Yes.
Okay, so there were, out of the 3 hospitalized cases, we've got 2 that remain in hospital. Or is it 3? That's what I'm trying to get to.
There are 3 people who are COVID positive who are in hospital.
Oh, right. Okay. Thank you. The other question is we have 8 positives, 2 of which are related to existing previous positives, and 6 ones that you don't know yet how they managed to contract the virus. So do we have an idea at the moment how many people are in isolation that have either tested positive or are suspected to have contacted people that are suspected positive, so we can get an idea of how many people are supposedly self-isolating at the moment?
Yeah, I don't have that figure, Wendy. The figure will be quite a large number because we're isolating clearly there's one positive person, the whole household will get isolated. And some of the households I know are large. They can be upwards of 11 people. And which is why when I'm reporting a positive from a known case, it's often a household member in one of those such households. But it will be a significant number. I don't have that figure, though.
Okay. But in other words, you can confirm that every time there is another positive, especially when it's one that you can't trace the contact or you don't know how they acquired it, that all of their family is also isolated, regardless of whether they've been tested yet or not.
That is correct. Everybody gets isolated immediately. We have a positive case. And then we have a little bit more leisure. I'm not saying this is leisurable, but there's a bit more time to go and talk to them, each individual contact in some detail to see if there's any link with a previous, because often we have found that we thought that seems isolated and we've gone back and done some in-depth questioning. We've actually found out that it's related to another case because that person has been working closely with them and we weren't aware of that link when we did the original isolation.
Oh, that's interesting. At some point next week, can you give us a breakdown of the cases that we really still that remain a mystery, that we can't connect the dots, as it were?
Yes, I can endeavor to do so. Which are I don't think actually. Most of them we've had an idea about where the contact has come from, because we're such a small place. We can often link it back to somebody that has travelled or a connection that's travelled. We still don't know 100% whether that was the cause, clearly. But almost in every case, we've linked it somehow to people that have travelled from abroad.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if no one else from the media has any further questions for Dr. Lee at this time, we're going to welcome the Commissioner of Police, Mr. Derek Byrne, to the podium to give us the latest update there on what his department is doing as it relates to COVID-19.
Good afternoon. Policing was generally quiet over Holy Thursday and Good Friday on both dates. Crime continues to remain stable and the hard curfew continues to operate well across the islands. It does seem that some people are not getting the significance or understanding the importance of the soft curfew periods, and boundaries are being pushed quite irresponsibly on some occasions. This was particularly evident on the beaches yesterday, Good Friday, along 7 Mile Beach. Our officers were on ATV and foot patrols and encountered large numbers of persons drinking alcohol, but moving about reporting that they were availing of their exercise period. Looking at the figures for Good Friday, Little Cayman, no issues arising overnight. Cayman Brac, 9 vehicles stopped. 6 persons were found in 2 vehicles in breach of curfew and warned for prosecution. And in Grand Cayman, 154 vehicles were stopped by police. No breaches of curfew were detected. 1 pedal cyclist was stopped and found in breach of curfew. He was warned for prosecution. So the main issue for police over Good Friday was the high level of activity along the beaches. People were moving around to comply with the law, but it assembled in groups of more than 2, which was quite difficult for our officers to enforce. Looking at this morning, we're in soft curfew since 5 a.m. Roads are busy with traffic moving well, and up to lunchtime today, 5 persons were stopped at police static checkpoints and found to be in breach of soft curfew regulations. Supermarkets, gas stations and pharmacies are operating well. They are well managed and well controlled, and social distancing protocols are being followed. There is activity across the beaches this morning. Our helicopter and marine units continue to be deployed on extended tours, monitoring ground and marine activity. Just a reminder that we return to hard curfew this evening at 7 p.m. and that runs all day tomorrow, Easter Sunday, and finishes at 5 a.m. on Bank Holiday Monday morning. This means we are in full hard lockdown from this evening at 7 p.m. until Monday morning at 5. There is no exercise period tomorrow, Easter Sunday. Unless you're an exempted person and authorised as essential services personnel, you cannot be on the roads between these times for any purpose. Police static and mobile patrols will be in place across the islands throughout the period of the hard curfew. As I said, soft curfew returns at 5 a.m. on Bank Holiday Monday morning, 13th of April. I appeal to all persons to observe the soft curfew on Bank Holiday Monday, particularly along our beaches. Please stay at home, Cayman. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you very much, Commissioner, for that update. There appears to be no questions from the media at this point. So we're now going to go to our Honorable Premier, the Honorable Alden McLaughlin.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'll start with the customary world stats. Total cases reported across the world now are at 1,533,541. Total number of recovered cases, 344,467. The United States of America continues to lead the world, the league charts. 521,816 cases, up 18,940 overnight. Total deaths are now at a whopping 20,069, up 1,322 overnight. Spain, 161,852, up 3,579 overnight. Total deaths, 16,353, up just 272 overnight. They seem to have reached their peak, thankfully. Italy, 152,271, up 4,694 overnight. Total deaths, 19,468, up 619 overnight. France, 129,654 cases, up 4,785 overnight. Total deaths, 13,832, up 635 overnight. Germany, 123,878 cases, up 1,707 overnight. Total deaths, 2,736. No deaths overnight, at least none reported. China, 81,953 cases, up 46 overnight. Total deaths, 3,339, up 3 overnight. The United Kingdom, 78,991 cases, up 5,233 overnight. Total deaths, 9,875, up 917 overnight. Netherlands, 24,413, up 1,316 overnight. Total deaths, 2,643, up 132 overnight. Canada, 22,575, up 427 overnight. Total deaths, 600, up 31 overnight. Portugal, 15,987 cases, up 515 overnight. Total deaths, 470, up 35 overnight. India, 8,439, up 839 overnight. Total deaths, 288, up 39 overnight. Philippines, 4,428 cases, up 233 overnight. Total deaths, 247, up 26 overnight. New Zealand, 1,312 cases, up 29 overnight. 4 deaths, up 2 overnight. Trinidad and Tobago, 109 cases reported, 8 deaths. Jamaica, 65 cases, up 2 overnight, 4 deaths. Anguilla, 3 cases. Bermuda, 48 cases, 4 deaths. British Virgin Islands, 3 cases. Montserrat, 9 cases. Turks and Caicos, 8 cases, 1 death. New York State, 180,458 cases, up 8,100 overnight. Total deaths, 8,627, up 783 overnight. Some may have seen this. I think we've already put out a release, but just to let everyone know that we were approached by the Barbados government. I spoke to the Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Mia Mottley, a couple of days ago, and we agreed to sell to Barbados 20,000 of the test kits for COVID-19 that we received at cost. And we were able to let them have also 200 dry swabs to help with their testing program over there. The government is most grateful to us, and we were indeed delighted that we were able, again, to provide assistance and support to our brothers and sisters within the region. I just want to make a few observations about the results today. They are, quite frankly, the most worrying that we've had. And we are anxious about the tracing, the results of the tracing program, which is now underway. This just underlines, I think, for all of us, the critical importance of adhering to the protocols that are in place. It is worrying to me, although generally I think we're happy with the way most people are responding to the curfews that are in place, it is worrying that people are still deliberately breaching the soft curfew. And indeed, the reports that I got myself about the number of people and the way people were congregating along, particularly 7 Mile Beach yesterday, was hugely worrying. It may take as much as 2 weeks for us to understand what the impact of that would have been on the community. But those sorts of engagements are what cause massive community spread of the virus. You just don't know, none of us know, who may have the virus but are at present asymptomatic. And thus, any engagement with another person puts you at risk. Now, it is impossible to rule out all of the risks. There are some people that, if they live in the same house with you, you've just got to engage with them. So there are always some level of risk, because each member of the household goes out on their own from time to time, and they meet other people. They meet people, they interact with people, and don't even remember they did so, because it's just casual, it's just in passing. But every time that you put yourself deliberately at risk of congregating in groups and drinking together and partying together, ostensibly because this is exercise, you are really creating a massive risk, not just to yourself and to your household, but to the entire community. Far too many people, indeed I'll say thousands, are still not taking this very seriously. And I think we are all gravely concerned about what will happen on Easter Monday, which of course, for those of us who live here or have lived here for any length of time, know that that is a real day for getting together and having fun. We can't do that this Easter. I don't know how, honestly, I don't know how else to express this that I have done over and over again. We need to take every, we need to try as hard as we possibly can. We need to take every step we possibly can to stay away from other people. Let us try to interrupt the transmission of this virus through the community. We are into community spread. There is no question about it. And thus, any person that you interact with may well be carrying the virus. Walking around with masks is good. I'm not trying to tell people not to do that. It helps. Every report we have says it helps. But it is 5% as useful, if that, as staying apart from other people. That is the most effective means of avoiding the virus. Do not congregate. Do not get together with friends. We know that, all of us know that we are all programmed as social creatures, at least most of us. We love getting together with friends and family, but we can't do that now because we are risking not only our own health, but the health of the entire community. I beg you, my people, please listen. Otherwise, despite all of our best efforts, we are going to have some tragic times. I'm really, really worried. I just want to reiterate, I've been asked to reiterate a point that was made about how we handle the surnames of people that have double-barrel surnames when they attend the supermarket or the bank or the pharmacy. We've had reports of people with two last names falling in both sections, H and M, for example. And when they turn up at the supermarket, they're told, today is not your day. And then they come back the next day and they say, it's still just not your day. Now, so that can't be right. So We are using the first of your surnames. The letter that starts the first of your surnames is the day that you should go. And I'm hoping that police officers, as well as supermarket and pharmacy and bank personnel, will understand that as well. I'm not sure that the message has filtered all the way through, but we're using the first surname, the letter that starts the first surname, to determine which is your day to be able to go to the bank, the supermarket, the gas station, the pharmacy, whatever. The letter that starts the first surname. So I'll end there for now.
Thank you very much, Premier. We'll now hear from Your Excellency.
Yeah, thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. I just want to start briefly by referring to Her Majesty the Queen's Easter message. I know Easter is an incredibly poignant time for everybody across the islands, and I think she spoke about all of us needing Easter as much as ever, and may the living flame of Easter be a steady guide as we face the future. I just thought it was important to start with that today. On the results, I share the Premier's heartfelt plea to everybody to please follow and obey the guidance that we are giving you all. The results today are worrying because we are doing the tracing, but we don't know as of now where this has come from in the community. So in the US yesterday, they had 2,000 deaths. The UK was over 900. We know how dangerous this virus is. So please, please, please follow the guidance and avoid human contact to the maximum extent so we can protect everybody, but particularly our elderly and vulnerable. And I want to just briefly refer to the work going on to try and help people who want to leave the islands to do so. A lot of meetings took place on Friday. I also want to signal that I think it is very likely we will organise another British Airways air bridge between here and the UK, probably within 10 days or so, again, allowing people here who want to leave to do so. And there's a lot of discussions, nothing firm or definite yet, about flights out of Cayman, possibly to Nicaragua, Miami, Kingston, Toronto. But all of those require discussions with host governments, and there are still some challenging discussions around that. So nothing is firm, but I just want to signal that a lot of work is going on to allow people who do want to leave an opportunity to do so.
Your Excellency, I'm going to have to ask you to stop. Apparently, they're having some technical issues. It's not going out.
Nothing of what I said.
I'm not sure. I don't know how much.
I was said that there's no videos what I got, but I don't know.
No video.
Of course, I'm nervous when I gotta come better next time because I see how they stay. So they make me like train, make me want to train more harder to like beat them in every race. Yeah, I run.
This is my first trip, so I wasn't really expecting anything. I just went out there and did my best, so that's all I really care about. No, it was very exciting. It was different from when you're running here in Cayman. You're really only running against your teammates, so it was definitely a really good experience running against other athletes from different countries.
It was my first curve. I was pretty nervous. I know I could have done better, but I think the nerve took over. So I didn't do too bad, but I could have probably got a higher score than I did. But like I said, the nerves. So I didn't get as much throws as I wanted. I felt happy, excited with the home crowd. The energy was good. I think I'll be more relaxed for this year. For the next track season, they have us competing more with a bigger crowd, since in Cayman we don't get that much. So hopefully I'll be used to it by then, and the next curve that I can get my trophy.
I participated in the 800 meters and the 4x400 meters. It turned out great. I came second in my heats for the 800 meters, and for the finals I came seventh because I was very tired. The scheduling of the event was very close and I wasn't used to the rounds, but I'm still thankful for how it came up. Yes, sir, it was a good experience. It was a great experience. Can't complain about the competition. They were great. They gave me a run for my money, so yeah. It was a great experience. It meant a lot, making me be able to meet different athletes and network with different athletes. It was great, and to know that I was running against basically the Caribbean's best, it felt good. It felt great. It was definitely worth it. Trust me on that. The different experiences, the different things that I got to do, different it was a great feeling. I wouldn't trade it for anything, any games, anything. It was great.
I ran the 1500 and the 3000 meters. Once I got onto the start line, I was excited, and it was so nice to have so many other people on the start line and so many other girls on the start line. And the crowd was amazing. You could hear your name so clearly and hear Cayman and cheering, so that was the best part of the whole event. I actually enjoy the whole aspect of the training and the fact that you meet new people, you have a runner's high after running, and you feel really happy and great, so you're all in a good mood anyway. And then you feel much more productive to go do things afterwards, like your homework or other activities. So it definitely gives you a boost in the day, and if there's a competition in sight, then go for it in the competition too.
The game was a tremendous success in terms of the preparation to the games, in terms of the participation, in terms of the support we get from the government, and in terms of the support we get from the public. Track and field is the foundation of all sports. You have to run, jump, throw in every sport, and that's what we are doing in track and field.
I'd like to say thanks to my coaches, all my friends, all my family. I know they supported me and they've always wanted me to do well, and they've always, even though I would not want to train some days, I know coach would be like, let's go, and the encouragement really helped me through this year.
Thank Coach Williams for never giving up on me and doing so much.
And I want to say thank you to my coach for having patience with me for the last 3 years, and thank you for getting me to this level.
First of all, you have to try and balance in between school and training. You can't have one without the other. I have a very strong passion for track, but I also have to do very good in my academics, so I have to try and balance it. But you just have to learn that you have to stay up at night, you have to push, you have to really try, and then overall, over time, you'll succeed. I want to say thank you to all of them for supporting me and coming out here to watch me.
I'm the captain of the team, so I have to lead from the front end. For instance, I can't shrug my shoulders if I'm feeling pain and say, well, I'm feeling pain, so I can't compete, and then the others would look at me and say, well, if he's feeling pain, then I
Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We apologize sincerely for the technical difficulties just experienced here on CIG TV. We're going to continue now to hear from His Excellency the Governor.
Yes, okay. Yes, sorry about that. I think we had technical problems. You could hear me but not see me, so maybe you were blessed for that alone. So my next point was just to say that this morning the Premier and I had a meeting with Ken Dart, and I'm very pleased to say that there is a private sector-led effort to create a new national recovery fund. Mr. Dart has pledged $1 million to that fund, and will provide matching funding of $4 million if there are private donors out there who will match that amount. The Premier and I strongly support this fund, and it will have four purposes. The first one will be to support us on PPE and the testing, so our immediate health needs. Secondly, it will be able to support individuals who are in distress or need support, for example, or income and financial assistance. It will also look at, thirdly, immediate economic needs, and it will have a longer-term economic development focus as well. It's a private sector led initiative with a private sector board, but with cross representation from the private sector. Government will be represented on the board. And I think this signifies again Mr. Dart's long-term commitment to the Cayman Islands, which at times like this is a hugely valuable asset for these islands. So both the Premier and I are very pleased that the private sector is stepping up to support at this particular time. My last message was a shout out today to the facility, the quarantine facility, where the people who came in last week are spending 2 weeks, and particularly to thank the people who are in that facility for their cooperation and the service they're providing to our community, but also to thank the redeployed civil servants who are supporting that facility and are doing a great job as well. So thank you to all of you.
Okay, His Excellency, there were a few people who were asking if you could go over the air bridges again. Some people.
Oh, go over that point?
Yes, please.
So I said that at the end of last week, there were a lot islands to do so. I said that I think it's very likely we will organise another BA air bridge, British Airways air bridge between here and the UK, probably in around 10 days. And if there are people here who want to leave and go to London, that there will be another opportunity to do so. I also said that there are a number of discussions, particularly around flights to Nicaragua, to Miami, to Kingston and Toronto, but I emphasise that nothing is yet agreed, and this remains very challenging, and there are discussions and negotiations going on with governments to be able to send flights to those countries. But we are doing everything that we can to enable people here who do want to leave to be able to do so. So good progress is being made, and we'll have much more information in the days to come.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We'll now move to the Honourable Minister of Health, Mr. Dwayne Seymour.
Thank you, Donna. Good afternoon, everyone in Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman. In hearing all that we've heard from Dr. Lee and the Premier's plea and the Governor's plea, please don't let all the hard work that we're doing be eroded. We need to follow all the measures put in place, distancing, etc., for us to be able to beat this. We think it's hard now. Wait till we can't control what's happening out there, and when we need to increase the measures and do full lockdowns for 2 weeks. We know how it feels when we have one 24-hour lockdown on a Sunday. But if this intensifies at the rate that it's going with the community spread, we will have no choice but to do a full lockdown for more than just one day. So I'm begging you to please take heed and try to follow all the measures put in place for us to save your lives and your family lives and your friends' lives. Today's scripture reading comes from 2 Corinthians 4:8-9. We are hard pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed. Let your Holy Spirit guide and protect us and our loved ones from all evil forces. Let not our enemies take charge over us or come against us. Fill us with your light and lead us this day. In Jesus' name, amen. Just a small prayer after. My normal translations will take place again on Monday, as I believe I gave you 4 different versions on Thursday: Aramaic, Greek, Latin, and Hebrew. So I thought that would suffice. I want to give a shout out to the labor and pensions team. I know your staff has been inundated with calls and emails regarding employment and unemployment issues, and you're doing a great job. We thank you for all that you do. I want to thank all the persons out there who appreciate my contributions on this panel. The emails, the texts, the calls, I thank you so much. It's very encouraging that you send these messages. Also, wanted to mention something that was resting very heavy on my heart today. Didn't even know if I was going to come today to the press conference, to be honest. I think some of the media bloggers needs to be more responsible and stop trying to derail the progress of the government has been making lately with our fight against this coronavirus. I'm appealing to the police to look at the CNS posts about me as minister and ascertain whether someone needs to be arrested for that also. They went as far as not posting the person's comments in my defense, so the ownership needs to take the responsibility. At a time when everyone needs to find some love in their hearts and unity to fight this disease together, instead we find ugliness even in their hearts.
Before we move on to members of the press, I'd just like to also say thank you to Lizette Yearwood, the CEO of the HSA, for being here with us via Zoom, as well as Ms. Carolyn. Of course, we couldn't do without her every day, as she is able to share the message here each day with members of the public who are not able to hear us. So thanks for Ms. Carolyn for being here. As well, each day in and out, we've had HMCI Director, Ms. Danny Coleman, here with us. We'd like to also welcome her. So if there are any questions to either Ms. Lizette or Danny, they're also here to answer those for you. Do we have any questions from the listening media for members of the panel at this point? Okay, we're going to go to Wendy first from CNS. Wendy, go ahead.
Sorry, Donna, the mute button is stuck there. Yes, can I ask the governor if you could give us a few more details about the conversation with Dar? I didn't quite understand the full details of what he was saying. He mentioned $1 million and then he mentioned $4 million. So I just want to try and get some clarity on what Dar's actually giving, where other money is coming from, like if anybody else has committed. And also, what development aspects, i.e., in other words, is there some quid pro quo as part of this bundle? Thank you.
Thanks, Wendy. This is still all at an early stage, but I was signalling today that the Premier and I are very pleased that discussions are underway to set up a private sector-led fund. Mr. Dart has offered $1 million to go into that fund, and he will offer a further $4 million if there is matching funding from other private sector donors. So that would take it very quickly up to $9 million.
Okay, thanks.
I think the second question is not one for me. I don't know whether the Premier wants to comment on that.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Do you have another question, Wendy? If not, we will move on to Kayla.
I just clarify that there was no comment on the question about the quid pro quo with regards to any kind of future development.
No, we're talking about a national recovery fund. It's not a DART fund. It is a fund to which he's prepared to contribute $1 million, and hopefully we can find other like-minded and financially capable people or businesses across the community that will contribute to this.
Thank you.
Okay, we now move on to Kayla from the Compass. Kayla?
Hi. I just have a couple of kind of housekeeping questions to start off with. Of course, one of the big topics everyone continues to fixate on is the 6-to-6 exercise schedule. I know that my street has never been busier around between 5 and 6 p.m. I'm meeting neighbors that I didn't even know lived here. Because it's quite hot during the day, is there any possibility that exercise hours could be extended a bit into the evening now that we're entering warmer, more humid months, and we are seeing people congregating around that 5 o'clock hour?
Hard curfew is 7 p.m.
Yes, but it's been clarified that exercise hours end at 6.
Right. So you should be in your yard at 7 o'clock. You shouldn't be on the road at 7 o'clock trying to get home. That's why there's that hour there. The one bit that I want to talk to the commissioner about is the start in the morning, because as we get further down the year, daylight comes earlier, and perhaps we can consider moving that back to say 5:30. I mean, I know how people feel about this, because usually when I go to ride, in other times, I leave home at 4:30. So I know how people want to get the cool, but the reality is that the hard curfew starts at 7, and thus the hour there is to give people a chance when they finish whatever they're doing to get home before 7 o'clock, so they're not breaching the curfew. If we say you can exercise till 7, you're going to be breaching the curfew before you get home.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
But the early morning start is one I think we can look at, and I'll have a chat with the commissioner about that. As it appears that this is going to have to be continued for some time, the more positives we get, as I said, every time we get a new positive, we have to reset the clock. So we'll have a look at it. We're not at all averse to adjusting and tweaking and trying to make people's lives as comfortable as they possibly can in these restrictive circumstances. But I have to tell you, the issue with the beaches has us all really, really disillusioned. I believe that, and I'll make the announcement, I think, before we finish this curfew, we are going to close the beaches on Easter on Monday, because we are courting disaster, absolutely courting disaster. If Good Friday was the way that was, I shudder to think what Easter Monday will be if we leave it uncontrolled. But I'm trying to work through the details of it now. It will require a decision by cabinet. But I'll get back to that before we finish this.
Okay, that closure you would foresee being just for Easter Monday?
Well, that I don't know. So, but we're certainly going to close it for Easter Monday.
Okay. Now, there has been a proposed class action suit against the Costa Luminosa cruise ship that we know brought our first case to Cayman. In light of that and the things that have come out since about that ship, is there any sense in government that that ship was mishandled either, or that there was any, anything that the cruise line could have done to have better avoided the situation that unfolded?
Well, there were no positive cases, and as far as the health certificate, I forget the correct term for it, was concerned. Dr. Lee, can you help? Dr. Lee has more of the details. Kayla, I'll just let him answer it.
Great, thank you.
The maritime declaration of health that was sent from the ship, the Costa Luminosa, on I think the 28th of February, certainly before it docked here, said that there was no sickness on board the ship. So we had no reason to deny the ship to dock. The person that had the heart attack had so after that had been sent, because often you can understand that's an acute event. So that was the information that was presented to us at the time, which is why it was fairly automatic that the ship was allowed to dock as usual.
Okay.
And let me say this: we obviously had consequences as a result of that passenger who had 2 cardiac events on the ship being transferred to Health City, and they are still working through those. But thankfully, that particular situation was contained and limited to the death of the passenger himself. All of the other persons who were associated with Health City and who went through it appear to have recovered well. So I think we can be eternally grateful that it didn't turn out worse than it did. There is no evidence, no indication that as a result of that ship docking and passengers coming ashore, that there was any other transmission or spread of the disease as a result of that. We can never say categorically that it didn't happen, but none of the evidence points to that. These other cases that we've been dealing with have been the result of principally of travel and then the onward transmission to persons who then have, because of their movements through the community, have spread it. Not as a result of the call of that ill-fated ship.
Okay. Thank you for the update on that. And given the announcements that have been made in the U.S. about restricting the export of certain medical supplies, I know previously you had mentioned that we were looking at alternative supply chain options. Is there any more urgency in those talks given the announcements made in the U.S.? Are there alternative locations that we're looking to bring supplies from?
Well, government's not directly involved in that. That's all being handled by the proprietors themselves. We haven't had any indication since I last spoke. I think it was last Sunday I spoke. The days just meld one into another. I can't remember which is now. But the last time I spoke with the supermarket folk, I didn't get any indication, although we didn't talk about it directly, that they were having any issues in terms of the supply of pharmaceuticals here. We do get a significant number of pharmaceuticals from the UK as well, and I think the BA flight that came in last Monday brought some more of those. So we have, I think, more than just one supply line to get those sorts of things.
Great. And I'll just ask one more question before I hand over the screen. Is there any update on the conversations with Cuba about possibly bringing medical personnel from there?
Minister Seymour, I don't know if you have anything. I don't.
Yeah, it's ongoing. The communication is ongoing, and I will update you as soon as that conversation.
Okay.
As we get more information.
Thank you.
We haven't really heard anything, but we know that they've received our request, but we haven't had a response as yet.
All right.
Okay, Kayla, thank you for your questions. We're now going to go to the Caymanian Times. Ralph?
Good afternoon. I have three questions, one for each of the panelists. But before I start my questions, I wish to say personally, I applaud the stellar job that the panelists have been doing. They've been here day in and day out, making a lot of sacrifices and working hard. I'm sure many of the viewers and listeners on Caymanians support that as well. So thank you very much for the job that you're doing. I'll ask my first questions to the governor. And Governor, can you say what role do you see the Cayman Islands playing in the recovery of the overseas territories in the future?
Well, I think the Cayman Islands has a proud history of supporting other territories. We helped Bahamas after the devastating hurricane, and Premier has announced this morning the support to Barbados. So I'm sure the Cayman Islands will continue to try to help its neighbours when it can, and continue that proud record.
Thank you. Next question is for Minister Seymour. Mr. Seymour, do you believe that self-motivation and the foundation in spiritual beliefs will assist in improving individuals' health conditions, particularly during this epidemic?
That's a very good question, Ralph. And in fact, that's some of the messages that I've been getting, and about some of the scriptures that I read and some of the messages that I send out. But not only me, but the pastors that come on and say a prayer for the nation before the press conferences, and the calls for fasting that we had for 3 days, etc. These are things that help persons of faith cope with what we're dealing with right now. This is a time this is an unheard of time. There's a lot of confusion right now. That's why we have the mental health hotline open, because we recognize that was necessary. There's nowhere for anyone to go. Everyone is pretty much stuck. It's almost like everyone is in a jail in their own country, and that is quite different. It hasn't happened in 102 years. So none of us was alive then. But we definitely need to all the work that the governor and the premier and all of us do up here is as I've heard the public say, it's comforting to them, and they look forward to these press briefings on a daily basis. I can tell you that I've worked with 4 governors now, Governor Roper being the 4th. And this is the first time that I've seen a governor so willing and able to stay into the trenches, not only just speak from the high chair, but stay in the trenches with us and endure what the premier is levied on us. No rest for the weary. And the premier, he's tough as nails, and continues to work tirelessly for this country, and half of the work that he does hasn't been told. But I thank you for that question, and definitely one that people look forward to and hearing that.
And thank you for that answer. The final question is for the Premier. I understand your feelings to this, sir, but this question has been on my mind for some time. I think you share the same thought as well. It is clear that the future will not be same. It will not be business as usual. And the survival of many businesses will depend on the adaptation of to the change that will come. My question is, would you recommend that business owners and staff use the next couple of weeks that we may be in curfew to revisit business strategies and make adjustments for the post-COVID-19 era?
The short answer to that is absolutely. But to expand upon that, let me say this, and this is some of the discussions that we've been having. It is clear to me that we will have, it is unlikely, there's no certainties in life, it is unlikely that we will have a tourism industry or tourism business for the rest of this calendar year, at least. So if that has been your focus, if that is what you've been doing, you need, as far as possible, to think about how you can repurpose your energies, your assets, your resources, including human resources, to do something else within the local economy, which is not dependent upon the influx of visitors. What we're trying to do is to get Cayman safe again to move about and to work and to do business. But the borders are likely to stay closed for many, many more months. Unless we wind up with a vaccine. I saw something hopeful in the Times. Some people are now saying September. Pray God that is true. Other people are saying 18 months. We don't know. Or at a minimum, rapid tests that you can tell within a matter of minutes whether or not someone is carrying the virus or not, or the immunoglobulin tests, which test for antibodies that say you've already had the virus and therefore are likely to have a certain level of immunity to it. But absent any of those three things, it is going to be impossible to open the borders and say, visitors, please come, investors, please come, because we're just, all of the efforts that we're making and have made this last month or so would have been for naught, because the virus would be here in a heartbeat, and then we'd be back, or probably in a worse situation than is currently the case. So if we can contain and eliminate the virus here, we can open back up the local economy. There are significant number of development projects, construction, lots of construction on the way that has been halted. If we can get the country safe again to move about, those projects can continue. In the majority of cases, the money is already in place, and the developers can continue with their projects. But if you are a tourism-related business, you need to think long and hard about your staff, if you still have them, to the extent that they're on work permit and are unlikely to be able to transfer to something that you're trying to do locally. You need to be thinking about how you can provide them with some sort of severance package and take advantage of whatever opportunities avail to let them return home until we wind up in a position where we can open back up to tourists. So it's that kind of thinking, I think, that needs to be going on amongst the business community. As I say, if you're involved in construction and development, there's a real hope that that can be up and going again in a relatively short time. If you're involved in tourism, that's highly unlikely for the rest of the year. As an example, those are not the only two examples, but those are two that come readily to mind.
Thank you for expounding, and that's all for my questions today. Thank you.
And just to add to that, Don, add to what the Premier said, business will not be as usual. And, I keep saying to the team all the time, we ought not let these opportunities that we have now, that the coronavirus has put in front of us. It has led us some good lessons, even for the environment. the traffic, the school situation, or work from home. These are all opportunities for us to learn from what coronavirus has taught us and try to make our country flow a little bit better.
Thank you, Minister,
Thank you
for that. I have a number of questions from the public. A few for Dr. Lee, who's right now at the podium. Dr. Lee, there are some members of the public who would like you to explain the full process of how the swabbing works. They hear that it can be unpleasant for some people. So if you could explain how we actually go about testing. I know you've explained it before, but there's still others in the community who are asking this question.
Of course. What we do is usually a nasopharyngeal swab, as opposed to an oropharyngeal swab. So the nasopharyngeal swab goes into the nose, and that is the usual way that we do that because reports have shown that you're going to get a much better capture of virus from that route than with the oropharyngeal swab that goes into the mouth. The nasopharyngeal swab is the one that's not as pleasant because clearly if you have something put in your nose, it's tickly and it's not very pleasant. But it is the best way to find out whether you have the virus if that's the sort of swab that you have. I think, if I may, I've got a bit more to say about the testing, if I may.
Sure, absolutely.
And I'm sure I've heard this question come from some quarters, and I'm sure it'll come up soon. Why haven't we started ramping up the testing yet? We're really delighted that we do not have a constraint on the actual reagents, the technical parts that we need to do the PCR test, but there are other parts of that chain that we need to get in order to complete the whole testing protocol. One of which is swabs. We don't currently have enough swabs on the island to open up that, but the swabs are about to arrive. They should be arriving next week. We have a very large order coming in for that, so I'm pleased about that. But there's another really important issue that I thought I should explain, and that is, if just because we test somebody, it doesn't mean that they are good to go forever. It's just like if you take your car to have the test done and it passes the test that day, the brakes may fail tomorrow. So it's the same thing with the testing. The testing just says that you didn't have the virus detected that day. So it's not just a question of being able to say you're good to go. We actually need to have a more sophisticated setup to go around and clear people and wait time for this to develop. So it's that is why protocols are being developed in order to try and work out how we use this testing ability. I've said before, I've talked before about immunoglobulin-based testing. That's testing in the blood, in the serum, to see whether you've had a past infection, and you'll have heard about some of that. The problem with those tests is that the tests are not very accurate. It's a good way of testing whether you've had it, but the tests themselves are not very accurate. So science will probably lead us out of this, but we're not quite there as far as testing is concerned to have a definite way forward.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee, for that update. I do have another question from the public as it relates to healthcare and frontline workers. How soon will the testing begin with those folks?
So essentially, I would go back to the previous answer. We're hoping that's going to be next week. We're hoping we can, with the things that are on island, knowing that the swabs are coming, we're going to start to increase that process next week. There are some laboratory-based steps that we are just bringing together at the moment.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. There is a question, I believe this may be, not quite sure, maybe for Your Excellency. Are any prisoners, or have any prisoners tested positive for COVID-19? I don't know who can answer that question for us.
I am not aware of any prisoners being tested positive, no. But I am also not aware, I'm not informed of where all of the samples come from that go to the lab, but certainly on that specific point, I do not believe that there are any prisoners to date that have tested positive.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lee. This question, or this recommendation, is for our Honorable Premier, Mr. Alden McLaughlin. In light of the news that was shared by Dr. Lee earlier as it relates to the number of positive cases now and the fact that it's now gotten to a stage that is very worrying to everyone, Premier McLaughlin, persons are out there asking why not consider having a harder curfew for a longer period of time, since people are really adamant about doing their own thing. So many people are.
Right. Believe you me, that has has been discussed, crossed our mind over and over and over again. And here is the thinking, at some risk of people understanding, what it is that we're thinking about a lot of these things. I just think it's important people do, because many people, just since I've been sitting here, I've had, I don't know how many people say, just lock us down for 2 weeks. The commissioner would love that. Crime goes way down when everybody's locked down. But it's just not practical. If we're locked down for 2 weeks and that fixed the whole problem, I think we do it. But it's not practical. How are people going to eat? How are they going to get access to medicine for a full lockdown for 2 weeks? The reason why we have adopted this approach is that we're trying to make life bearable for people. It's not pleasant in many instances, but reduce as far as possible the risk of interaction so that people pass the virus from one to another. That's why, so we try to take people off the road at night so you reduce the opportunities for partying and drinking, all of those things from 7 p.m. till 5 a.m. And during the day, we've kept tinkering with it as we've gone forward to try to divide the community by last name, essentially, roughly in half, so that only half of the people have the right to be on the road at any given time. We thought long and hard about the exercise bit, but people have to have some outlet. And exercise is just generally good for the body and the soul and the spirit and everything else. And this is likely to have to continue for some time. So that's why we have this sort of approach to it. If we thought we could fix this and lock the country down for 1 week, then everybody would just have to grin and bear it and we'd do it. But a week from now is still, and we open it back up, that we still don't know. What's happening now, you see, is today is 20 days since we shut our borders. And as we said all along, by this point, we'd start to have an idea how prevalent the virus is in the community. So people who are presenting with it now are almost, we can almost be certain that they are unlikely to be people who have traveled, save for the 60 or 58 that are in quarantine now, but hopefully they're safe, right? So we'll know what their situation is. So what we are seeing now is transmission, community transmission. All of these cases are community transmission. So we are still hopeful, although I'm less so today than I was previously, that we are able to still trace and isolate the persons who are contacts of these people, these unfortunate people who are presented with it. And so we can isolate them, treat them, hopefully, as has been the case so far, with the notable exception of the first gentleman who came here with it. They've all recovered and or are recovering. So that's what we're trying to do. And we just need people to truly appreciate how serious this is and just cooperate with the protocols that we put in place. We're going to have, and we've decided, I've talked to enough of my colleagues on the chat, we are going to close the beaches with effect on Monday. Deeply regrettable decision. You know how many times I have begged people to behave in a certain way because we're taking away what is a real pleasure of many, many people. And those who are behaving perfectly reasonable and well are now having to be penalized along with those who constantly abuse the opportunity. But if we don't do it, I am desperately afraid that Monday is going to be carnage out there. Many people out there partying, believing that they are well, but you can believe some of them are carrying the virus if there are significant numbers of people out there, because it is in the community.
Yes.
So we're going to work through the regulations, and Cabinet is going to amend the regulations. But I'm announcing now that on Monday, 1 minute after 12 a.m. on Monday, the beaches will be closed.
Thank you, Premier McLaughlin. How will that work with those who live on the beaches? Because you know that question is going to come up.
Right. Well, if it's their beach, it's their beach. It's private property.
But they shouldn't be exercising on the beach. They won't be allowed to go swimming in the beach. How will that work?
Well, it's their beach. It's the public beaches that are posing the real risk. If you live on the beach and you and your family are there and you go in the water for a swim, the police are not going to bother you. Whatever risk there is. That's your family. But you're not supposed to have other people there who are not your family with you. I'm not going to try to impose on the commissioner the obligation of checking on individual families who have a house on the beach. I mean, that's just an impossible exercise. It's the public beaches that are posing the problem. It's the public beaches we get the reports about. And we're also, or at least I am also cognizant that we've agreed to relax the provision that was originally in place to allow people to fish from the shore as long as only one or two people. So we're trying not to interfere with that. But it is the public beaches that are posing the big problem. Big areas, big stretches of sand where people go with their coolers and congregate in numbers, as the commissioner reported. And I've got reports since I've been sitting here of activity down at Barker's with large numbers of people with coolers and supposedly exercising, So those are the things. Those are the kind of events that really exacerbate the risk of contagion. And I'm sure people understand this. But we're also cognizant that the longer that we have to continue this, the harder it is going to be to continue to enforce the curfew. But if we relax things now, I promise you, my people, within a month, we are going to be like New York. Believe me, it's going to take that long, but it'll take a month.
And it's also something that the World Health Organization doesn't recommend. They're seeing some countries that are actually starting to lift their curfews and bans, slow, even at a slow pace, and they're now paying for it. So it's something that I think most people will agree is a very wise decision not to do that. The other question that I have is for His Excellency. Persons are inquiring as to how they can donate to that private fund. Do you have any type of information of who they can contact, so on?
Yes, it's discussions at an early stage, but I think an formal announcement will be made later this week. So details of that will be put out. But at the moment, the only information we have is what I've announced today. But something will come out further. Can I come back on one point,
Sure,
Donna, about the prison? Just to say that a handful of people at the prison were tested, and all of those tests were negative. But we do intend, as part of the major step up in testing, that all prisoners and prison staff will be tested. So that's a big part of our step up. And I do want to commend the prison director, because he's already done a huge amount to sort of manage the COVID-19 risk in the prison. And I know that other prison directors in the region have been actually copying policies that have been put in place here. So I know the care and welfare of prisoners as a staff is absolutely uppermost in all our minds, and a lot of effort has gone in to that. But clearly, the testing will provide another level of reassurance.
Thank you, Your Excellency. One final question. Earlier, you mentioned about airbridge to discussions that are ongoing, and I had some folks that actually contacted me asking about. You didn't mention Honduras, and there are lots of Caymanians there that apparently are stuck, and they just want to know, well, if there's any discussions going on there.
I mean, I think discussions are going on, but that falls into the category of the ones I was mentioning, which some of them are very difficult because of getting permission to be able to do that. But that is certainly something which is being explored, but there's no no firm information that that's going to be possible at the present time.
Mayor, did you have something else to say? Okay, we're going to go to Wendy at CNS.
Thank you, Donna. I have a couple of pressing update questions that are coming from the public. I'm not expecting the answer today, but I was just once again checking whether we can get some information from this early next week, which is what's happening about whether the post office is going to open or not, and also the dilemma regarding the vehicle licensing problem over inspection. So, as I say, not expecting an answer today, but if we could get one early next week. The other question is
Wendy,
now...
Wendy?
I can help you with both.
Oh, great. Thank you.
We're not reopening the post office. We'll have to find post offices. We'll have to find a way to ensure that those people who need access to whatever service it is there are able to get it. But it is too risky and unnecessary, we think, in the grand scheme of things. We are going to have to pass, and we've already had it drafted, an amendment to the traffic law to allow for the licensing of a vehicle even when the inspection is more than that is more than or less than 3 months before expiry. So it's a simple amendment to the law. It'll be a temporary provision, but that's part of the package of pieces of amending legislation that we're hoping to bring to the House very soon.
Will that also be passed on to the insurance companies? Because I think some people are concerned that their insurance doesn't apply if they're not inspected.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the first part. Will it be what with the insurance companies?
The insurance companies won't they invalidate the policy if the car isn't inspected, if it doesn't have a certificate of roadworthiness.
Well, I guess we'll have to work through that with them. I'll have to talk to the AG about the legal implications of that. But the certificate of roadworthiness, the requirement for a certificate of roadworthiness is imposed by the law. The insurance companies simply adopt what the law says. So I would think it would be okay, but I'm just talking based on my knowledge and right off the top of my head, haven't really considered that point. But yeah, so it is the law that imposes that a certificate of roadworthiness has to be obtained every year. So if there's a provision in the law that allows for an exception, I would think that the insurance companies would follow that.
Okay. Thank you for that. It's just all people are asking. The other one that's now becoming something of a large.
We missed the first part of it. You broke up.
Wendy, if you could repeat the question.
I've got one more question. Please. It's a question that's emerging.
Just repeat the question from the top. You got cut off.
Okay. My second question is regarding evictions and terminated leases. There are a growing number of people who say that they're about to be thrown out or their lease is terminated and the landlord won't let them stay. What's the situation on people moving during soft curfew? Is it because I assume it's not allowed? So what's the contingency plan for people that could be homeless?
we missed part of your question, Wendy, but I think
Sorry.
I got most of it. If I answer you wrongly, it's because I didn't get that bit and I've misinterpreted what the rest of it meant. But I think you were asking, what do you do if you are being forced to leave and you need to move during the soft curfew? Is that right?
Pretty much, yes.
So we've had a number.
Assuming people are saying, what do they do?
So we've had a number of these, and people have written in to the competent authority, curfew time, gov.ky, and asked for a one-off exemption for a given period. So, and that's been done on a number of occasions that I'm aware of. So we can facilitate once they understand, or once they've made the competent authority understand that this is legitimate, it's a one-off event. I need 4 or 5 hours on Saturday to move from my apartment to another one. They've been able to facilitate that because life has to go on. You know, we understand that, and we're really trying to do everything we can to facilitate what are legitimate pursuits.
Okay, Wendy, if that's it for you.
That was asked by an awful lot of people. I have one more question.
Please make it quick, Wendy. We have the final question.
Given all the efforts being made, there are some concerns about the protocols being followed by both police and supermarkets with regards to protecting customers, i.e. the police wearing the same gloves, handing everybody back their driving licenses, staff not wearing masks. There's a lot of issues. People are concerned that the protocols don't seem consistent. Is there any plan for a much more orderly, consistent protocol for the police and supermarkets and people interacting with the public for essential services?
Well, the commissioner is here, and please come, Commissioner, to answer. But I think there has to be some level of reasonableness in approach to this. I mean, are people really expecting that the police will change the gloves every time they inspect a driver's license and hand it back? I mean, that's a bit.
I think they're asking not to have to hand in the documents and just show them instead.
If I can assist there, Wendy, they're also provided with hand sanitizer to supplement the gloves, and they're asked then after each of the handlings to use the hand sanitizer on top of the gloves. That is the process we've been trying to adopt since the start. Quite obviously, some officers are better than others. I would certainly reinforce that message, but the idea is to wear the gloves at all times, and they use the pocket hand sanitizer they're provided with and filled each day, and they use that to cleanse the gloves regularly. And in some cases, officers are adhering to a protocol where they're examining documents from a distance rather than taking possession of them and accepting them on face value.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. We'll move on to our final question from the Compass, and then we're going to wrap up. Kayla?
Hi, Mr. Premier. I have a question that I hope will be short. I just wanted to clarify the announcement regarding the beach closures on Monday. And I guess I asked this earlier as well, but will that closure just be Monday, or is it Monday, starting Monday, moving forward?
Well, we have to obviously make the regulations in cabinet, and the concern right now is about Monday. I think we'll have a broader discussion about whether that obtains going forward. I'm not going to try to make an executive decision about that because that's far-reaching. But we'll have that discussion tomorrow or this evening, but what I wanted to make sure that people understand now, because there is not going to be a press conference tomorrow, is that the beaches are closed on Easter Monday. I think we'll probably have a press conference on Easter Monday. I'm not sure yet, but we'll make further announcements about the beaches thereafter. The regulations will have to be gazetted, so they'll be out there, so people will know. And we'll try to get it out to as many people through social media as we usually do over the weekend. But that, for certain, beaches are to be closed on Easter Monday.
Thank you, Mayor McLaughlin. Thank you to members of the media. Are there any final words from our leaders? No final words. Of course, we'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us here for the special press briefing here on this Saturday. Of course, we'll encourage you to stay tuned into our social media platforms as to when the next press briefing is. Also, before we go, a reminder that if you have any complaints about employment or unemployment, you should go online to gov.ky/coronavirus. All of your questions will be answered there by the Department of Labor and Pensions. Also, don't forget eservices.gov.ky for all of your e-services information on vehicle licensing, driver's licensing, even police clearance records as well. Of course, we'd like to thank everyone for making this possible today. Again, we apologize for the technical glitches earlier, but do enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend.